Good morning. Back on my Jaymz Type TL telecaster type guitar. Now we've leveled, beveled, and polished the frets. We've straightened out the neck about as far as we can so far. We tried to replace the nut and that didn't work out so well, so we still have the old plastic cheapy nut in here. But we've got the thicker two strings down around 0.020, 1.020 inches. The skinnier two at 0.016, but the two center ones are a little bit high. The D is a little bit high, the G is a little bit more high. So we're going to try and MacGyver that in. All we're going to do is remove the strings, take an X-Acto knife and try and just sort of groove it a little bit. We're not going to be leaving this as our standard nut because, well, it's cheap plastic. But being left-handed, I'm going to have to go find a Tusk left-handed nut with the right width, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. We could make one out of bone, but it's a long ways from what the slab that we start out with is. And we obviously know that using a saddle from a different guitar isn't going to work. Ask me how I know. Anyways, so let's do that. We're going to loosen off these center two strings and try and dig in a little deeper into the knot. Always loosening the skinnier strings first. Off to the bench. So we remove the string from the string trees. Come on, get off of there. Out of the gap. And then I'm just going to basically just push straight down and wiggle a bit. We also want the groove to kind of go on this angle because the string has to go in through the knot and then go down to the string tree. Let's hope that is enough for that one. Get it out of the way. Pull this one out. And as I say, with this one, we don't have to go as deep. We just have to do a little wee bit. So we're just going to do that much because we're probably going to have to go back in there and do it again, because we want to go in very small increments. We don't want to go too far. Okay, so that is just the rough tuning. We aren't going to spend a bunch of time doing this because we just want to make sure it gets into a good area. Now they can still, that G still has to come down a lot. Okay, and continue this until we find the right spot. So now we've tried it a couple of times and the knife is not doing it. So what we are going to do now is go in with my little saw and try and make it just a little bit deeper. That one, I'm hoping that the knife did not go down like way too deep and the groove was pinching it to where all of a sudden I just moved everything out of the way and it drops right to the size, right to the fretboard. And geez, they are still Still too high. So we go this way about it with the saw to try and actually make the grooves wider. Wish me luck. That worked. So we've got them down to a point where they are acceptable. They are not exact, but we don't need it exact. We just want it in the area. So now we've got this all set up. We've got to start looking at the other end. First thing I'm going to do is go over each individual note and see if I have buzzing anywhere, because we want to figure that out right now. Or should we set the height at the 12th and then do it? I say we do it both ways. So we're getting a little buzzing up in here, but as I was saying, I believe these top 4 or 5 frets are sitting too high. The board comes through this way, comes up, but then it sort of flattens out over the back here, and it does sit a little bit high, but those are frets that would have to be lowered with all the strings off, and I just put these strings on, so we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is adjust the saddles just enough to keep most of the buzzing away. I don't play up in here very often. I'm mainly down in this area, so it doesn't affect what I'm going to be playing. All these were fine, so we know what's coming up down the road, but to this point, let's just get the height at the 12th figured out, because we got like 2.5, 2.25, 2, 2, or 175, 175, and 150. We might be lifting that bottom one, but we'll just take a look. I want to get these ones down a little bit just to make it a little bit easier. Shouldn't really make too much of a difference other than the intonation, where you have an open E here and you get an open E, well, not an open E, a fretted E here, and you want them to be the same note. You don't want this one to be sharp or flat, and that you adjust with the barrel coming in and out. If it's flat, you move the barrel up towards the headstock. If it's sharp, you pull it back towards the bridge, and that's how you adjust those. Now with the 3 barrel style, you're into the compromise part, because one barrel handles 2 strings, so you might have to just get it close, and that's what a telecaster is all about. It's not about major excellent sound, it's about close enough to make some noise. At least that's how I feel about it. So here we go. So we're wanting the large E to come down. We're going to loosen this roughly about a complete wrap and see where it sits then. We were at 2.5. We are now just a little over 2. I'm okay with that. We're going to leave it there for right now. The second one was at 2.25. We're going to give that a half a turn, because we just wanted to come down whatever, a quarter of a millimeter. And it is at about 2. So those 2 are not bad now. This one was about 2. Let's bring it down a half a turn. See if we can get it closer to 175. The very bottom one was way too low, so we're going to give it a half turn up. You didn't see any of that, did you? So what we've done is, this was at about 2.5. We wanted it down more, about 2. So we gave this here lug a complete turn down, loosening. This one was at 2.25. We wanted to go to 2, so we give it a half loosen. The next one was at 2. We want it down on 175, so we gave it a half. And then the very skinniest one was at 1.50. We're going to give that a half tune tighten. And now let's check all these strings again. And at the 12th in millimeters, it's almost a little bit over 2. That's about as 2 as you're going to get. 2, 175, 175, 175. So let's take a look at this top one again. It's almost 2. So we're going to take the top one and give it a quarter turn loosening. Do a little string stretch. And at the 12th in millimeters. 2, 2, 2, 175, 175, 175 to 2. So these last ones I want it to go down, give it a quarter of a turn loosening, and this a quarter of a turn loosening. Geez, that top one is two, 175, 175, 175. We're going to leave it there for right now, but first we're going to go back through every note and see if we got any buzzing anywhere. Okay, so we've pretty much get it into a fairly nice setup. What we done today was we deepened, we made the grooves on the D and G string a little deeper here to bring the height down. And then we used these lugs in the barrel bridge setup to adjust the height on the rest of them. Now I'm not getting any buzzing until I get way up in here, which I don't go up in there very often anyways, but what we need to do to stop that is once we do our next string change, we'll have them all off. We're going to shave these down about the bottom 5, maybe 6 frets. They just sit a little high. The bridge comes along, or the neck comes along this way, but then it flattens out in a high spot here, mainly on the lower side, but when we're doing it, we'll do it. We'll take a look at that point. Only one other little adjustment I want to do on this today, and that is this pickup, what they call the lipstick pickup. It's covered over by this chrome cover plate, so the actual pickup is lower than it actually looks. You set it up, you're supposed to set it up for about 2 millimeters from pushing down on the very last fret, and it roughly is about 2 millimeters, but as I say, the actual pickup is not at that cover plate. That's not at 2 millimeters, it's farther down. So we're going to just use up every little inch that we can. The only time you're really going to get any buzzing off of that is when you're playing way up in here, and I don't do that. So that's the last thing we're going to do today, and then this will be all set up for messing around with. So I at first got out my precision Phillips, but that is too small for these screws. That is more for the backs of the string trees and the backs of the tuners. So get yourself a full-sized Phillips screwdriver. And then one way is going to bring this up, and the other way is going to bring it down. So let's take a look dead on and start turning and tightening it we'll bring it up. And it is touching there. So that is too high. We want to back it off a bit. Try it again. It is just touching there. Back it off just a little bit more. About a half turn. And we have just barely any room in there. So that is good. Let's check it right across the board, because if I'm not mistaken, the skinniest one, well, it still has some room too. So let's tighten it just a touch. A little more than a quarter turn. Pushing at the last fret. And we can probably go just a little bit higher. Wonder if I could do like two things at once here. Probably not. Good enough. So we've got about 1 millimeter between the string and the pickup. We're just going to leave it there. This back one's fine because it is good and loud. You can tell when you're in just the bridge pickup that it is good. But when you put up into the neck pickup, it was muffled. Not muffled, but just less powerful. Not muffled as in like talking through a towel or something like that. So there we go. I guess now it's probably just clean up time and do a little playing. So we've got it pretty much in the spot we want it to be for now. As I say, we've got more work to do on it coming down the road. Mess more with these frets up in here. Get an actual good left-handed electric nut. And then, I don't know. I know these electronics are fairly low-end, cheapies, along with the pickups. Maybe we look at that next. Who knows? First off, I got to get some talent and learn how to play. Thanks for watching. Please share, like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Tell me what I did right, did wrong. No one do things wrong. Not a luthier. Just an old guy with too much time on my hands. So with that, catch you next time. Bye now.